Hi, Vicki.
Hello, Wynne.
Do you have a cup of tea?
I do. Yeah, let's pinkies up. We'll cheers each other. Hello.
Cheers.
I do. What's in your teacup?
Mine is blueberry green tea, which is
Mm.
a nice combination.
There's something about green tea. Maybe this is true with blueberry, but I find I need a clear mug when I do
Hmm.
it, so I tend to like over steep. So in your mug, how do you know when your blueberry green tea is good to go? Right? You have to like
Right.
peek over the top.
No, I'm never patient enough to have it overdevelop. It just,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
don't
Well,
have that time.
I know. Well, and we know, as we talk about, tea in this episode, there are plenty of, viewers and listeners who would think of what we describe as taking tea as
Yeah.
being kind of like the worst possible way because we know all about tea rituals, but we're kind of the dunk the bag and go. If I'm really fancy, I'll use an infuser in a teapot, but it's
Yeah.
usually only if I have a friend over. If it's
Yeah.
just me, it's dangle
Yeah.
dangle. Yeah.
Yeah. Dangle,
Hmm.
dangle. Let's get going. Actually,
Hmm.
the funny thing is that we'll turn the kettle on. I'll put the tea bag in my tea. The house
Yeah.
is completely dark except for the candles I've lit.
Hmm.
And then I let it steep while I read my meditation books.
Oh,
And when
that's
I'm
good.
done with meditation, then my tea is ready. So I do, that's my better
Oh,
answer. Because, I
that's
never do
good.
look at it because it's completely dark
Yeah.
in the kitchen at this time of year. And
Yeah.
so I just let that be whatever that is.
I like that. But you
Mm.
also, there is sort of a timestamp to it because you're doing something that's part of your morning sacred time
Yeah.
while the tea is brewing.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And it's a
That's
great
good.
segue because
Yeah.
one of the reasons we're talking about tea today is
Hmm.
this passage from Mark Nepo, who is one of my favorites and who I read every morning in that sacred time. And it's about tea.
Yeah. I love it. And can I just tell you, I think I always mispronounce his name. It's really Nepo, not Nepo. Is that right?
It's a
I don't,
really good question. I don't know.
Someone will have to fill us in.
Yes,
Apologies if I've been doing that wrong.
me
Yeah.
too. Why don't
Yeah.
you say it Nepo and I'll say it Nepo and then we'll cover both.
Let's call the whole thing off, right? We'll start singing, right? No, we won't. We
No, no, we
promise.
won't.
No,
We won't.
no, no songs.
All right.
Yeah. I love
From
this.
we'll just call him Mark. Um,
Okay.
okay, so his meditation on tea that I just love is if we stop to truly consider it, making tea is a miraculous process. First, small leaves are gathered from plants that grow from unseen roots. Then boiling water is drained through dried leaves. Finally, allowing the mixture to steep creates an elixir that, when digested, can be healing. And then he goes on to ask some questions.
Hmm.
The whole process is a model for how to make inner use of our daily experience. For isn't making tea the way we cipher through the events of our lives?
Hmm.
Isn't the work of sincerity to pour our deepest attention over the dried bits of our days? Isn't patience the need to let the mixture of inner and outer brew until the lessons are fragrant and soothing on the throat? Isn't the heat of our sincerity that steams the lessons out of living? Isn't it the heat of those lessons that makes us sip them slowly? And I love that part because I you do have
Yeah.
to sip slowly.
Hmm.
And then he finishes off. Yet perhaps the most revealing thing about all of this is that none of these elements alone can produce tea.
Yeah.
Likewise, only by using them together can we make tea out of our days and our sincerity and our patience. And none of it is healing without a willingness to drink from the tea of life.
Wow.
Yeah, it's such a good I just
Wow.
love that because it's such a good invitation
Hmm.
to 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 pour over what we already know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard to listen to that and not slow down.
Mhm.
And your reading of it, of course, is makes it even better. But it's all the elements coming
Mm.
together, each having equal importance, and then
Mhm.
allowing it to unfold.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. It's it to me, tea and writing go hand in hand because
Mm-hmm.
they're both opportunities to discover what I already know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's something about the slowing down with tea, and there's a lot about tea rituals, that
Mhm.
we could spin off on, that people kind of adopt and adapt, but
Mhm.
that there is something magic about a warm beverage
Mhm.
inviting contemplation,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I think you and I often believe that being seekers and looking for answers, solutions, all of that, the reason why we meditate and we seek those quiet
Right.
moments is that very often what we need is on the inside. And it's really hard to drink
Right.
hot tea in a hurry. You really
Mhm.
gotta
Mhm.
commit,
You do. You
right?
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other part of the ritual that I love is that I wrap my hands around my warm teacup, and it's usually right about then that my kids come down from
Yeah.
sleep, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
have these really warm tea hands, what I call
Oh,
them, and I put them on their faces or on their backs, and
yes.
it's a ritual with my
Yeah.
kids that
Yeah.
that's the warmth of
Oh,
life, the warmth of lessons, and it's
yeah.
really healing.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody has a sore back and you put your hot tea hand on it,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's a reminder this time of year, we're recording this, in the
yeah.
middle of October, literally. And things have definitely started to change, at least in North
Mhm.
America, about, light and temperature and all that and
Mhm.
seasonal changes. But you're right, it's that the savoring the cup. And I think, both of us have, you know,
Mhm.
it doesn't work for me to have a cup of tea. And I
Mhm.
have, a couple of examples. This is a tea set that was my mom's mother's, and my
Mm.
mom never used it. But
Mm.
it's in a special place, in a cupboard in a cabinet. And
Right.
I've got a little chocolate set that was
Oh.
my uncle brought it back from Vietnam in 1967.
Mm.
But there are the precious things about tea, but then
Mhm.
there's the utilitarian. Like I love
Mhm.
those, but I would never use them because I hadn't thought about it. I like the wraparound also.
Right.
And then what that does for you, but what transpires with your kids,
Mhm.
and the warm hands. But I have to ask you, in when it's very hot in the summer, and I know Seattle doesn't get like
Right.
ridiculously hot, your tea ritual in the morning doesn't change. You
Mm-mm.
still are,
Right.
all of that. Okay.
It doesn't change for the morning, but I probably won't have a second cup then if it's hot in the day. How about for you?
Yeah, I like coffee in the morning because I have found my way into having some people would call it protein coffee.
Mm.
So I like, a little bit of that. And I have a dear friend, Irene, who makes the best coffee. So I have
Mm.
her kind of secret recipe of, some people would call it like a coffee version of hot chocolate,
Mm.
but it fills me up and it's good iced, which
Mhm.
I'll drink, even when it's cooler out. But as soon as I've had that, I'm on to my first cup of green tea, just
Mhm.
because I feel like it's a cleansing thing in the
Mhm.
morning, and I'll take my vitamins and, get moving, start thinking about, where does the exercise fit, or the stretching, because I'm the
Mhm.
person, if I don't do that in the morning, it's not getting done
Mhm. Mhm.
any other
Same for me.
time.
Right.
Yeah. And then I often will make like a big batch of green tea to keep iced in the fridge.
Hmm.
And I prefer to brew my own because I know what's in it
Mhm.
and it takes nothing,
Mhm.
to do that. But it drives Paul a little crazy because there's always, two or three different glass decanters of something in the fridge. Yeah. But I like my tea and I like
Yeah.
tea in the afternoon too.
Hmm. And you have a another precious tea book.
I do. Yeah. A former student who became one of our student workers when I was in higher ed was a big fan of tea, and for him it became a self-care ritual, and
Mm-hmm.
he knew it. And he ran across, I'll take some of my little things out of it. He ran across a book, and we'll, put
Mm-hmm.
these references in the show notes too, by
Mm-hmm.
Malachi McCormick, called A Decent Cup of Tea.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had it for 25 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I've always thought of it as a precious volume, partly because of the size, but I also really enjoyed the design on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And it's written from a man who's originally from Ireland, but it talks about kind of tea rituals, and I love that it has some delicious recipes about, what do you have with your tea?
Mm.
Just delightful. And I
Yeah.
wrote about it a couple years ago, not quite,
Mm-hmm.
about what it means to have, precious little books
Mm-hmm.
around that remind you, of people or the stories that they've told,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
about what matters to them. But I love this little book, and I don't know if it's common anymore. This was printed 33 years ago, but it is a handmade book.
Oh,
And so I
wow.
don't know if it's still available in this way, but from a very boutique publisher that
Mm-hmm.
once upon a time, took great care in crafting.
Right.
So I think about all of our, artist and designer friends and creative types. There's
Yeah.
something special about little books that remind you about self-care, like
Yeah.
tea.
So, like tea. And
Hmm.
you commented on the design of the book, the swirls.
Yes. Yeah, I love that because I once upon a time I did a post about that too, because I love design and home decor also. It's a part of who I am and things that I've dabbled with. And I am very enamored of scrolls, Gaelic scrolls,
Mm-hmm.
swirls, and they are pronounced, design elements throughout our house. Ironwork,
Mm-hmm.
I love. And I've learned the older I've gotten and the more I learn about ancestry, this is not a random thing. My
Mm-hmm.
love of old stone, swirly
Mm-hmm.
things. But this sweet little book has this cover design that you can tell, someone made this with love and care.
Mm-hmm.
Um, not something that was, AI generated,
Right.
or done, with some CAD drawing or something. It was someone's, beautiful hand taking the vision from their head when they thought
Mm-hmm.
about tea and the swirls, and yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
just makes me happy.
That's wonderful. And I
Mm-hmm.
love this conversation. I love that tea often invites us to slow down, as you've observed so well, and
Yeah.
take our attention on the things that maybe we already know, the things that we need to steep out of our experience. So,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for talking about tea.
Thank you.